The following tutorial is brought to you by WholeLoops.com.
It's production time. I'm Reid Stefan, Realest puppet in the game. Today, we're going to be putting together a pop track from scratch. Now, I'm not trying to make a boring pop track. I'd like to make one that also doubles as a club banger. So let's jump right into it. The first thing I'm going to do is start out with my first sample. I'm going to be pulling a sound from Hot Tropics Volume 3 because it's summertime and I'm in a little bit of a tropical mood. Let's go see what the sounds has for us. I actually kind of like that one, and it's in C already. Makes it very easy to sample. Let's just double click it and see if we can come up with a catchy melody. That's not bad. I think I like the very last measure of that, so I'm just going to double click this, quantize everything, and then go and hit Command J on the piece that we want and turn our loop on. Let's also hit legato so our MIDI notes don't overlap. And I'm going to go into the sampler, and since this sample has a little bit of a slow beginning, we're going to just chop it forward a little bit. Let's turn the attack up a little bit. Turn voices down to 1. I don't want these to overlap. And let's shorten this bottom note just for a little differentiation. A little release on it. Maybe we want to add a little bit of glide to this too to make it sound more like a slide whistle rather than just a flute. Maybe portamento. Actually, I don't think the glide works unless they're overlap. There we go. Now, I actually would like this to be the main melody throughout the whole song, and that may seem like it's going to get a little bit tiring, but what we're going to do to help break it up is come up with a few different sounds for this MIDI to play. Maybe an 808. I like this one a lot. I'm going to double click this one, and since this sample is at D sharp, I'm just going to put it into a sampler, tell it that it's a D sharp, and let's drag our MIDI down and see what happens right here. Ooh. So now these may not play at the same time, but we've definitely got ourselves two pretty good pieces. Let's try and build a drum beat behind our bass line. And we'll call this our flute line. Let's set up an impulse. I like using impulse because it allows me to load multiple samples onto the keyboard at a time and still have all of these controls up for each one. I find the drum rack to be a little bit too big and easy to get lost in. I like having just 8 slots. So impulse is a good favorite of mine. Let's check out some percussions and see what we can add to this beat. That's a good snare. Let's put it over here, save it for later. That might be a cool thing to layer with our kick. We're just kind of using our imaginations here, and it's a good snare too. Whoops. If you don't drag it in the box, he accidentally creates a sampler for you. This is a cool sound too. I kind of like how dull it is. Let's give our middle C octave a play. I kind of like these 2 taps. Let's do it. Now, my timing wasn't perfectly locked in because I wasn't playing with the metronome, but that's all right. This is going to be our little background percussion loop. I might actually take these and slip them over a little bit. So So now this could be our perc loop. Might do a couple percussion loops. And now let's duplicate this so we still have all of our instruments that we picked out, but on a MIDI channel. Just shorten it a little bit maybe. Let's shorten it just like that. That'd be perfect. And let's record some of these in. I like to also hit the randomize on the velocity, so it gives me a little bit more variation. A little randomize on the pan too. So let's use our 808 an octave up during the verse part, and let's have it jump back an octave down during the next part. And let's loop this out and see what it gives us. Hey. Hey. Where is the glide section? Here we go. Let's do a glide again. And let's detach these two. Hey. Now we can duplicate it and pitch it down for our next section. Let's try an octave up for over here too. Let's try our rim shot. I like that rim shot. Let's try and add this one into our drum kit right here. Put our headphones on, and I'm just going to add one more hit with our new percussion. Hey. Duplicate it right here too. We're just piecing this together, one little idea at a time. Let's check out some open hats maybe. I like that one. I'm going to put these on their own channel. So I just hit Command-Shift-T, double click it so it goes straight to the sampler. Let's put one on the downbeat. And that is going to be our 4-beat loop. We just Command-J it and then hit quantize. Send this to the downbeat. Boom. Turn our loop on. Let's see what we get. And obviously, got to keep our channels titled nice and organized. Next thing I'm going to add is maybe a kick drum into the next part. Let's go. That one's nice and clean though. We're going to take number 30. I'm going to turn my velocity all the way up. Turn the filter off, snap off, voices up to 1.
Is your sample collection lacking organic tropical flavor? Do you struggle to find the perfect sounds for your next summertime smash? Introducing Hot Tropics 3, the treasure chest of organic drums, loops, and samples that will turn your Latin beats into tropical heat. Hot Tropics 3 is available now only at holoops.com.
Let's record in some kick drums. We only need to record in 4 because we're going to quantize them to the nearest quarter note. And loop those bad boys out. I like to keep my kick towards the top. We're also going to swap this sound out for something else a little bit later too. let's keep it going like this and then have a new layer come in. Let's check our sounds folder again and see what we can. Let's try this one, F sharp. All you got to do is just tell the simpler that it's an F sharp. Let's go down. And to make this a little bit more interesting, I'm going to add some modulation to it on the pitch. Kind of gives it a little vibrato, helps it be wonky like the flute is. Speaking of flute, I think I want this to be a little bit more in my face. So I'm going to go grab the OTT. I have an OTT vocal preset, which pretty much just takes the default preset, which looks a little bit more like this. And I just go ahead and drag the low end out of it, and also drag it out with this brown one too. And that pan randomize is so useful to help sending a sound to the background. I really want the flute to be the main instrument that you hear during this part, and this little harpsichord layer to kind of come in and just support it. Might even reverb it out just to send it more into the background. Now the next thing I feel like this beat is missing is more of a rim shot to help the off beats hit harder. So let's go back into Hot Tropics 3 and see if we can't find ourselves a little bit of a rim shot to help fill this in. This one's pretty thick actually. Let's use this MIDI, and we can delete all the ones that we don't need, being this layer and this layer. Oops. I love how in Ableton you can fold it, you can click on the piano to delete all of them. Let's go back down to Now this is sounding pretty clean. I'm just going to rename this rim to keep it looking clean. I like to keep my snare type things up close to the kick and my percussions following. Let's see what else we can do to this. Let's start our beat with a snap actually, because it's not a pop song unless it begins with a snap. We have some snaps in the class folder somewhere. Here it is. This is a little bit of a small snap, so we're going to have to do a couple things to it to make it sound a little bit bigger. First step is going to be just to turn up the volume. Let's record in some snaps on 2 and 4. All you got to do is one measure, because we're going to do the same loop the whole time. Turn our loop on, quantize it, drag it out. Now let's make these snaps a little bit more interesting. Some reverb is definitely going to help us do that. Maybe a longer reverb. Now, I like to do reverbs in parallel when I put them on drums. So I just hit Command G, and it puts it in this rack. Let's rename this verb. And make sure your reverb's at 100%. And we're going to pull the volume of the reverb down right here now. And call this chain dry. Kind of have a wet and dry channel now. I think this kick can be a little chunkier too. Let's grab that one actually. That one's nice and chunky. Get rid of that little spot in the beginning. Now think of this as a verse and a pre-chorus. And then after our pre-chorus, that's where we get all of our bass back. I'm actually going to keep the 808s high in the verse. Let's try an octave down. See what happens now. Let's bring all of our drums in. So if we think of this as an intro, verse, pre-chorus, and now we got a chorus. And now since we have no bass during this part, I think I'm going to add a long bass pad to it. I'm going to pull up Serum and make a bass pad. Let's figure out what our notes are. Let's make a loop out of this part. I know I'm going to want to do a kind of a filtered, quieter bass. Go down an octave on my keyboard. Maybe some detune. Let's turn this one on too. Let's try those notes. You guessed it. Let's also drag this MIDI down an octave. Hey. And now when I'm making tracks, this little thing up here starts to get bigger and bigger. It doesn't really help me that much. So I'm just going to go to View, turn my overview off. Let's call this baseline. Now I want to add some percussion loops filtered out under this pre-chorus so that we don't lose all of our beat, even in the spot where the beat drops out. Let's check out some loops and see if we can find something pre-made that sounds good that we can just drop in. Let's try this one. Now that we got a filter on it, maybe I want to do an effect like a flanger too. Hey. That's a good start for our vibe. Let's create another channel and just keep layering a few more groove elements into this part to help it. Ooh, that's nice. Actually, I might put this one in here instead of this one. I like the hi-hats. Let's do a little automation. Cool. Let's... Ooh, I like that loop. Let's put this one in here too. It's another quiet thing. Loop it out for the whole section. And we can grab our auto filter because it's already got the automation that we want and our flanger. Let's paste it down here too. I kind of like how that first note goes down an octave for the main part. I think that high note is more appropriate for the verse section.
Are you one of the millions of music producers who don't know how to play real musical instruments? Did you quit guitar lessons back in middle school because it made your fingers hurt? Here at Whole Loops, we've got the solution for you. Introducing the Guitar Bundle, an organic collection of electric and acoustic progressions ready to drop into your next smash hit. The Guitar Bundle is available now only at wholeloops.com.
Shrink all these tracks a little bit so we can see better. Next thing I want to add, some effects, sweepy noises to help this beat kind of move along. Let's start right from the beginning with a couple. I like that one for the drop. And let's see what else we can find. This one will be a nice one for the drop too. Definitely need some that sweep up leading into the main part. This one will be a good one for the loud part. Let's take all these, zoom in right here, use Command Nudge just to send it back. Now I'm just going to cut off this last little bit because it gets a little loud at that last moment. Let's see what else. Let's have this cut off on the floor. Grab this effect and paste it right here too. Let's just drag this one over a little bit. Boom. We could start this one right here. And we could start this one right here because it begins a little bit earlier than the beat. I like to redo the fade just to blend it in back. Chord back in for the second half of this. I'm going to hit Command Shift D to create another section of this, and let's do some closed hi-hats for the second half of our drop section. I like that one. Has some nice ring to it. And for this, I might just click these notes in based off of this MIDI. Let's do some fast ones and some slow ones. And let's make this a loop right here. Make it a two-piece loop. I'll do the same thing with the pan randomizer. I'll pull this a step down too. Hey. I'm also going to have these happen every other time. Let's do one more of these right here so that during the second half of our drop we get some open hi-hats too. Let's get rid of our flute for this section. And this can be verse 2 now. Let's bring the bass pad back in right here. Command Shift D. Grab our high pass filter on the flute. And just kind of have this fade in during these parts. Yes. Drum fill right here without a kick in it. We'll do the same thing during this part. And I know we got some drum fills here inside of. Let's do that one. I like the way that sounds. Do a new audio channel. Let's make sure it got the tempo right. Whoops, no it didn't. Sometimes you have to tell it what the tempo is. This sample's 110. Ooh, that's a nice fill. Let's try finding a piece for the first half of this. That might work. I'm kind of just going with the first things I grab, just for timing's sake. but they usually end up being pretty good because we're going through Hot Tropics 3. The thing I want to add is maybe some vocal samples in here. Some shouting. I like that one. That might be a good one to put in the effects down here. I'm going to drop this as the downbeat, boom and boom, and we're going to extend it a little bit with a ping pong delay. It's a really great way to turn any sound into a downlifter. I like that one too. Let's make a new channel for this. Let's bump it up one. That way when I hit a C, we've got to put them right there. I like that. Make a loop out of that. Quantize them. Whoops, I gotta go back to 16th notes. And then turn our loop on. Just this little bass note going an octave up really helps differentiate the hook part from the following verse. Ooh, I like this explosion sound. Let's go and do some more effects. I'm going to drop this. Oh, looks like Ableton crashed. Let's see if it recovers our work for us. Yes, I would like to recover my work. And this is the beauty of Ableton. It does not matter what happens while you're making your beat. If that stuff crashes, Ableton has got your back like an old homie. Boom, and we are in business. Of course, Serum didn't save our work, so we're just going to go ahead and put these voices back. Sorry, you guys got to watch me do this, but this is a very real part of producing music, dealing with some unexpected crashes. There we go. Got our synth back. There we go. Full screen this. Last thing I want to put is one last little drum fill before we go into the spot with all of our groove in it. So let's go back to loops. Let's go to fills. That one's nice and clean. And we're also going to take the beginning of this and loop it throughout this build-up. Boom. It's a nice little rhythmic element. And we're going to start it in the second half. And we're going to do a nice auto filter to get that in too. Now I want this flute to not compete with the kick drum so much because they are happening at the exact same time as the bass line. So I'm going to do a little side chain on this to our kick. Let's see how this helps. Hey, now we're bumping. there you have it. That is my guide to creating your own crossover, pop, and club bangers. I hope you learned something. If you'd like to check out the samples I used to make this entire beat, head over to wholeloops.com and check out Hot Tropics Volume 3. Until then, I'll catch you guys next time with another tutorial. Peace out.